mystic. He owed me some money in Spain. And I went to his house one day and he said, well, take a picture of yourself, give us your birth date and a couple of other key information. I'll send it to a psychic I know, and she'll take this and she'll take what she knows of you and go up into the ether and try to figure out where you came from, your past lives and so forth. So she said one of your past lives was that you lived in a cave in Central Europe. You weren't from Central Europe, you wandered in there for some reason, but it was your happiest incarnation. So I'm reliving my happiest incarnation in this cave here in the Czech Republic. We're in Prague. We're going by this fantastic train station that's somewhat marred by this industrial era freeway that's been put in front of it, but it's quite a jewel. We're going to the MeetFactory, an experiment in urban renewal. Houses artists, theatrical groups, raves, rock concerts, art installations, lectures, conferences. It's one of the new models for arts culture in the sense that it's a confluence of some commercial concern and also some public funding. It's an old factory on the side of a railroad track. We're at the Urban Space Epic studio here at the MeetFactory, and this is a multimedia facility, and when we say multimedia, you might say multimedia to the extreme, taking whatever you can get your hands on and making some kind of public and even participatory show of it. Don't really want to be nailed into being poetry, really don't want to be nailed into being music, don't want to be nailed into being theater. Want it to be kind of looked at as a primordial predecessor of all that, at a time before any of those things were thought of as being separate art forms. Tribal meetings where people were expressing themselves, telling stories, changing masks to illustrate the story. Instead of changing masks, we changed projections, we changed musical instruments and so forth. Keep evolving with what tools are possible and to maintain the friendships and the collaborations that I've built over the decades working with different people. Thanks to the MeetFactory, every month or two we have live happenings here in the studio with visiting musicians, guest musicians, and sometimes dancers and projectionists and film artists all joining in on the mix. The Austro-Hungarian Empire delegated a large part of their industrial base to the Czech Republic. You see all these train lines, all these train stations, rail tracks, tram tracks, and so forth. A lot of it was for manufacturing. And part of that manufacturing involved cameras and turntables and tape recorders. So this is one of these countries where they had an early grasp of photography and film, and quite a bit of experimentation took place here with film and photography, abstract expressionism. One good thing about it is I don't have to explain myself. There's a legacy for all the various components that I'm working with. The contemporary music, for instance, they understand that. They have composers that were doing that throughout the 20th century. So the country is very progressive in terms of that. I was in some rough neighborhood in Rust Belt town taking stop frame animation of street lamps with a camera, and a bunch of rowdy people came up, and it was like 12 o'clock at night on Saturday. I thought maybe I was about to get jumped. They said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm doing experimental film. They said, oh yeah, experimental film, that's great, you know, and where are you from? And it goes like that, you know. So, you know, it's not like, well, you know, what are you doing in our turf kind of thing. It's like, well, are you doing something interesting? You're making use of yourself? Well, okay.